Welcome to TradeTheMBA.com. This is John. This report is for the 26th of February. And well, we broke that 28 level. And sure enough, just as expected, once we got above it there was a bit of selling that would take place after it. And this is exactly what we expect every time we make one of these little forays into new area. We've also started to see a flattening out of our gold, which is something we look for as a key to the beginning of, any pause or stop in a run. That we have rising azure. Usually when those meet is when we look for any more of a significant kind of breakdown. We did, starting here in the pre-market, we've already got steel dipping below red and steel. At the same time, we have orange making a little spike that could put some more downside pressure on things. But we're still above ABM gold right here. We have the key levels, the 2762. We're starting to get above some of these now. And so really turns more to intraday setups because as you reach ultimate market highs, it gets even more complicated. We're still a ways from there. I mean, we were almost at that expected 2950 level that we were looking at from before. NASDAQ, very similar, but a little bit stronger from both the shakeout standpoint as well as from, when you're looking at the gold rising still. So there's still some potential out there. It got a little overbought here the other day, and obviously it's already filled that back. So, and this is where, you talk about the market's never been more overbought. Well, we see when we're overbought versus not because the shakeout tells us whether or not we've got a situation where it's beyond extreme, and we're certainly not there. So regular oscillators just aren't going to capture that kind of dynamic change in it. The continued support in the euro and the rise of it, the potential of moving Brit exit out to 2021 now, certainly trying to use it to bolster the euro there, and that definitely helps S&P because it gives it a little bit of a advantage earnings-wise. Though companies still making plenty. It's funny because they took about all their downward revisions, but it's still doing quite well. And that's put a little downside on gold here, but we knew that was part of what was in these positive extremes in the first place. Still in a decent category. So from an intraday standpoint, we had all these positive extremes, and I said, okay, look for the rise up to these highs, and we'll start to fill these, as it moves on to an exhaustion period. And sure enough, we ended up with a couple of soft ones. This is when we had the short snake develop strong here, where you ended up with all four crossings at the same time with the red flattening out, almost turning to a negative, and that produced a little bit of a decay. It wasn't a whole lot. And then we came across to a secondary one that happened, right up at the peaks, which I tend to like a little bit, and look for this setup here, which was then the final DOC spread, and that led to the most significant breakdown. Then we dipped below the negative 13.5 here on the shakeout, and pretty much couldn't get anything going from that, even when we started to have a little bit of a rise. We ended up with gold just as we started to fail with no dip of orange underneath. And then as it started to come in, it produced tiny little moves, but all of them just pretty much got captured at the 23. And that's led to the filling of, we'd have to go way back to right over here and these earlier positive extremes going down. And then we're looking to retrace this last dip to the lows right there. Wasn't a dip below the red line or anything like that that had to be filled, but that's just kind of where it's stabilized. And really we had the 2793 as a pivot line that came above, and once we got over that 28, I usually look for, once you pass that 28, I was figuring somewhere between 28.15 to 28.20-ish. That's usually when you start to get an exhaustion. This one died a little bit earlier than that. We only got up to about 13, and it started to get soft and rolled over from there. Not a shock, and that typically happens on a breakout, and that's exactly why I described it the other day. Sure enough, it was just a matter of waiting for the cleanliness of it. Even if we looked at our 50K, it got out of it to right at that break. I don't know if that puts us near equity highs on that. We could take a little quick look at the performance report. It's close. As I've been going through making the small adjustments to what criteria for buy setup, and that we're really improving what its setups are, and that's going to reduce, like I said before, a lot of the losing trades, simply because they're not going to qualify as entries as it gets more defined as to what specifically qualifies versus doesn't. And that will change the profile dramatically, and that's just part of that continual adjustment on the paint bar that I've been doing. So for the short term right here, we're looking at pre-market, ended up with that little soft buy, got overbought pretty quick, has retraced it already, and this is where we look for that secondary buy configuration on an improved DOC red. We're already past the previous pivots. We do need to break that 7.5 in order for it to do anything significant, so it's not going to happen until there's another curve up. At that point, we would expect to see shakeout above the negative 13.5, and that's where you would look for it to catch it. For now, it's still, weak configuration. So going into the end of the month, it was pretty decent. So probably going to be a little bit of profit taking within that. We've been nothing but up throughout the entire month, so wouldn't be surprised for some people to take advantage of some of those gains for window dressing, so to speak, as they position into the beginning of spring coming up. So it should be exciting stuff. As always, though, anytime there's something relevant, I put it up there on the chart. It was kind of boring the other day because it was all pretty clean, and until we ended up with the simple short signals, and it did its thing from there. As always, though, I will let you know if I have any additional updates to give you. Trade well, and we'll talk to you later.